welcome to the very, very first episode of the Habemus Podcast. It's a podcast where we watch The Young Pope and then we talk about it. My name is Tristan Damour, and alongside me is my co-host Harrison Milo Raha. Jason, what's up? What's up, man?
We just watched the first episode of The Young Pope, and I must say, I've seen the episode before, and now my mind is totally different on what the episode is. I don't know what to think anymore.
Exactly, and on that very topic, on the show, this is the whole purpose of the show. We watch an episode with a guest, and the fun of it is some of them will get the context, some of them won't, and our very first guest is Verity Stevenson. How's it going, Verity?
I am very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. So before we go into this, Harrison, would you care to try and explain what the hell we're doing here?
Yeah, please.
Yes, sure. So Tristan and I like the HBO show, The Young Pope. We found out that we like this show kind of in a weird way. I found out about this show through reading articles about it that I thought were really good, so I wanted to know more about the show. So I watched it, and I was like, this show is so weird and so good. I love it. Tristan, a few months later, I would say, wrote this article about Emran Smashmeyer, the goalie of the Montreal CWHL team, the Canadiens, and he titled, who was also the goalie coach of the Stingers women's hockey team, and he put the headline "The Young Coach." So I was like, Tristan, is that a reference to the Young Pope? And he's like, why, yes, it is. So I said, oh, finally, someone watches the Young Pope.
So how did you find that show, Tristan?
So I came across it on the French version of Netflix, which is like with the video, what Videotron uses for Netflix. It was the first time I've ever watched this show was dubbed in French, and then I watched it again in English, and now I'm watching it a third time. The voice dubbing is actually quite good in French, which is a fucking surprise.
Is it like French, or it's like?
It's like international French. I'm not sure if it was dubbed in Quebec, but yeah. So I came across it. I was always I'm not a very religious person, but I was always very interested in the Vatican and stuff. It looks like a very secretive place.
Yeah.
That's what drew me in, and then just the Italianness of the show.
Yeah,
really drew me in.
That's what I like about it.
Yeah, it comes through. And you mentioned that about the Vatican. I've never been to the Vatican, but if I ever do go, it's for the simple reason that I'd want to go to the Vatican to use an ATM, so that to see if the ATMs work with Roman numerals instead of with normal numbers.
That is the most ridiculous reason to go to the Vatican ever.
Do they do that?
I think so, yeah.
Only use Roman numerals in the Vatican?
Yeah,
that would be intense.
And the official language of the Vatican is Latin. So it's Latin and Roman numerals when you're trying to withdraw some... What's the currency? I guess they use euros? I don't know.
The holiest cash you've ever withdrawn.
All right, so how the show goes, it's very simple. We're talking about three things. First is highlights, what you liked about the episode in question. Low light, what you didn't like about the episode in question. And the patent pending Diet Cherry Coke Zero character of the episode.
Yes.
So which character you found, I guess, the most compelling or did the best job in the episode. So let's start with highlights. Let's start with the positive and then kind of move our way through. What was your highlight? Well, actually, let's start with the guest. What was your highlight, Verity, of the show?
I think I was thinking about it while we were watching. What scene do I prefer? And I think maybe it's not the best scene or whatever, but I think it was when the Cardinals were talking outside.
Yeah.
And you have... So I don't know how to explain it. They were gossiping basically while they were smoking cigarettes, and they're all these cardinals from different countries. And I thought one of the things that I really liked about this show was, because I don't know if I like this show,
I mean, that's fair. That is a fair point.
But is I think that it's so well shot, so beautifully shot, and like I find that all of the angles are just really interesting, and that was one of the things in this scene, I think, is just that you had them all from like different angles how they were talking, and it just felt like you were kind of there with them, just like joking outside. And they're all worried about this new pope.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Harrison?
I'm also worried about the new pope. I think my favorite scene, just from like just a pure hilarious standpoint, is when the pope is giving his is dreaming of his first address to the public, and he's saying all these like things that you would not expect the pope to say, like, you know, we should celebrate abortion and gay marriage and stuff like that, and then you have all of those people like sprinting for the exits, yelling help, like in the Vatican. That's hilarious.
It was subtitled also.
Yeah.
They were saying it in Italian.
Yeah. I would have to say that's my favorite scene, because it's just like you have everyone. You have that whole thing where it's raining, and then he just shows up and he just does this, and he says "Ciao Rome," which is just so good.
It's like the most American thing to say.
And then like the clouds part, it stops raining, the sun comes out, everyone like pulls their umbrellas down, and everyone is like just super happy about this, like super jazzed by this like new pope. And then as soon as he starts saying, we have forgotten to be happy, we have forgotten to masturbate, and then everyone shuts up. That's just beautiful.
And I love when, I don't know what their position is, but those like old men just
just fall, yeah. And then you have Boiello, who's like, hey, you're not the pope, I'm the pope. You're nothing. You're done from the church, and then he just wakes up. That's
you're done with God.
Yeah, you're done. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's intense.
Yeah, he's like, what do you mean I'm done? I barely even started. Like, yeah, that's my highlight, I think.
That is your highlight?
Yeah.
Okay, so I gotta give an honorable mention before the actual thing. It's all of the scenes in Italian. There's so many scenes where they speak Italian, and I'm loving it. I'm like the guy that went to Italian school and just never actually got to speak Italian because I was
school that was full of Italian.
Yeah, but they were offering Italian Italian classes.
Okay.
And I went to an elementary school that offered Italian classes, but I was busy learning English. So since French was my first language, so I never actually got to do Italian classes, and I kind of like regret not doing that. And like all of the scenes in Italian, it like makes me feel like I'm like part of it. So I'll give the honorable mention to that. But my highlight, and it's gonna start a theme in this podcast, because all of my highlights will be those like monologues where Lenny or Pius XIII is an absolute dick to someone.
Yes.
And so it has to be the introduction of the Cherry Coke Zero.
Oh, yeah.
Where he absolutely destroys, for no reason, absolutely no reason, that poor little, I guess, nun or cook.
Oh, yeah, the cook.
Mother.
And then there's like a zoom on like her face, and she's like crying.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, you're such a dick, man.
In that scene where she kisses him, and she's like, I'll make you whatever you want. And then she turns around, and then you can't really hear her. She's like, pasta fagioli, carbonara, lasagna. she's like listing off.
I'll make you whatever you want.
Yeah. Man, I just want a hug from that lady.
Yeah. Poor lady.
But,
I want all that food.
Yeah, exactly. I want all at the same time, which I'm pretty sure, like, if you ask her, she'd do this.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
But yeah, this whole show is just about how much a dick this guy is.
That's a great scene.
I was gonna ask you guys what this show is about.
Well,
yeah,
it's about a pope.
It's about
that is young.
That is young and
is a huge dick.
He's a huge dick, and he's like more conservative than like most popes are, considering how young he is, which I think is the reason for the first scene where he's like talking about all of those like very progressive things, and then it turns out that like he's actually like
having a nightmare.
No, yeah, he's having a night. That's his worst nightmare. Is that he's actually like hyper conservative, and like Boiello, who you would think would be like that too, just based on what we know about people that work in the church.
Yeah.
That guy's like the progressive one. That guy's the one who wants things to like. That guy's the one who's like, you know, kind of down for abortion, which is like not something that you would expect. And and then Lenny's like, no, fuck that. Like, no, we don't. Not in my church.
Not in my church.
Yeah,
it's like so appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of like what the show. The show is about a young pope.
It's basically
a young pope who seems way older than he actually is.
And there are a lot of contradictions because he's American, so you think like usually in Europe they're like, oh, the Americans are like frisky or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly. Which makes a lot of sense. And Jude Law's European.
Yeah, he's British. Yeah. Technically, still for another.
But that said, though, I thought Jude Law would was it you before we were watching that was saying that you didn't know that Jude Law was British? He, by the way,
what a performance!
What a performance! Yeah. First off, he looks like a huge dick, and then he looks like he's this guy from I think he's from New York. Lenny is from New York.
Yeah, he's meant to be from New York.
And I totally buy it.
Yeah.
I do too. Also, it looks like Jude Law is living when he plays this character. He just seems to love it.
Yeah. He's made for that character. Yeah.
There was also one of the I think when he went on the Tonight Show, he explained why he has red shoes, and basically, so the most outrageous popes in history have had red shoes because you only have a choice of red, blue or black, or red or white, and not a lot of popes in history have chosen red shoes, and it's not something in the show. It's actually, a detail from
that's good that you
Catholic history.
That's good that you clarify because I couldn't.
Yeah, he explained that I think on Fallon.
Also, because I'm extremely colorblind, so I didn't realize.
You didn't know he had red shoes.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
Oh my god!
I didn't realize. I thought it was
sorry.
So when he said that, I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I had no idea.
I feel I wonder what the popes with blue shoes wear, because are because blue shoes are that. It's just so clashy.
Yeah, that's true. With the white and then just a shock of blue. Well, although red.
Well, I mean, it's basically it was that there's this very very short split second scene where he watches this statue with Sister Mary, and he he walks back 2 steps and you see his shoes.
Yeah.
So I want to
also can I make an honorable mention to every single time that that Voyello was looking at that statue. Those scenes were hilarious. Where he's just staring at it. He's just staring at it. It's so weird. Whack.
It was kind of endearing.
Yeah,
Voyello is endearing.
Yeah.
I find he's a nice character.
Yeah. He's the cheesiest too. His soccer fandom, which
you'll
find out later. But he has the 3 players, and it's the Holy Trinity with the 3 Napoli players. And
I did not.
But also, why does he have 3 phones?
Why does
he's
he have 3
so
phones?
busy all the time. He's in confession. Tick, 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 tick.
I'm Tom Zalatni, host and producer of Up for Discussion, a long-running comedy podcast on the Upford Network. Every week, me and my team of hilarious improvisers use audience-submitted questions to dive deep and delicious into every topic under the sun. Nothing is off limits. The audience has full control. It's like going to an improv show, only it's in your ears, and nobody's asking to see a scene about sex toys. Hopefully. One reviewer called it an underappreciated cult classic. Another reviewer called it not a very compelling product. Go check it out and see for yourself. The Up for Discussion podcast. Available wherever fine podcasts are sold.
All right, let's jump into the lowlights. So, Verity, what did you not like from episode 1 of The Young Pope?
I don't think there's one moment necessarily. It was more when I didn't understand things, or something was a little bit slow, I think. Yeah. And I think that was really on purpose, and it did at the end, the effect was oh, it made sense, but some parts were just slow, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I'll think of something more specific when I hear what you
No, but it's
say.
it's totally it's a valid point.
I was gonna say the scene that I like the least from the movie from the show, even though I feel it's sort of an important scene, a foreshadowing for the rest of the show. And the reason I don't like the scene is exactly what you're saying, is because it's like kind of slow and you're like, what is happening? Is the scene with Gutierrez so it's right after he like opens the door and then those kids are like, that scene is like really important, but it's also, and it might be visually appealing because they're walking through the Sistine Chapel, I believe. I don't know my canon, but they're walking through that probably very important and historical place, and it's like a pretty important scene where he's like, oh, you know, like I am the Pope, and like I will sooner or later learn all of your secrets, but it's like a really boring scene. Like it's very slow.
It kind of is.
It's very slow. It's too much talking. It's you know what? I don't dislike that scene. I'm mostly disappointed with that scene.
I think.
Yes.
I think
it could have been better.
It's purpose. Like it served a purpose because
totally.
It was like right before the part where he asks the confession guy to give him all of the secrets.
Yeah.
But it was, as you say, like it served a purpose, but it was almost unnecessary. Like it's like we already know that he wants to know all the secrets.
Yeah.
We already know that he's like a dick.
Yeah.
But I liked it. Made me like Gutierrez.
Yeah.
Because he's just like he seems like actually a good guy.
Good guy Gutierrez. Yeah, I think that like that scene honestly probably was more to introduce Gutierrez than anything else, because he actually ends up being a pretty central character in the show, and he's like the most lovable of all, I think, in the entire show.
He probably is.
He's the only one that, not for one moment in the show, you'd be like, I hate that guy. Everyone else, you'll be like, I hate that guy. But not him. I fucked with Gutierrez.
Yeah, that's very true, and I think we're all agreeing on that point, because that was also a low light of mine. But it's a low light for a reason, and I feel like you kind of put. I feel like you really do center the problem. Like you kind of explained why it was bad, but it's in order to introduce.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe that was kind of sloppy on the parts of the people that were filming it, but still, it's because there's a lot of stuff going on for a good, I want to say 30-35 minutes, and then it kind of drops for a while, and at the very end, you kind of like the I don't believe in God thing is very, and then it just ends in kind of like, it's very dramatic, and I don't even think there's like a song at the end. Like it ends and it just goes straight to credits.
It's a good ending.
So maybe those last 10 minutes.
It's like the opposite of a Breaking Bad episode, where like the Breaking Bad episodes. I know you've never seen. Have you?
I have not seen Breaking Bad.
I like watched like maybe one episode.
So like the thing about Breaking Bad is that the episodes kind of, and even the entire show would start really slowly. Like the first 2 seasons of the show are like almost unbearably boring.
Right. I've heard that.
But then after that, it goes like this, and then like whoosh, the spike is just like it just takes off.
It builds up.
But it's a very, very slow build, and all of the episodes kind of are like that too. Like the last, let's say, 20 minutes of every episode are just like fantastic, but the first 30 kind of suck, and there's still like a lot of talking, a lot of like setting up. It gets better as the show progresses, but like. In this episode, it's kind of the opposite, where you have like so much happening, and then it kind of like plunges until you have that last scene where he's like, "Oh, I don't believe in God. I'm kidding."
Yeah.
Like, who says that? Who does that? Like, you're the Pope.
I'll put another honorable mention though. That first scene with the babies, like I've watched it 3 times and I still find that weird.
It's a fucking weird.
It's so
scene.
weird. What is?
I don't get it either.
Oh, is it like since he was a baby, he's been like walking all over people?
That could be.
Or he's like alone in the world.
I kind of see it more as like, you know how like you know when the baby making process is happening, like there's kind of a race and then you win. Like I feel like he's the same thing where like he was the chosen one, even though like he probably shouldn't have been.
Well, that's a good theory.
Yeah.
That is a good theory. And he walks out from underneath.
Yeah, exactly. And like he kind of walks out from underneath Spencer, which we later find out, and then like Spencer tries to kill himself.
Oh, Spencer, he was one of the babies in the thing?
He could have been. He might have been.
He might have been.
I actually might see it as like Spencer is like all of the babies.
Because he's walking all over.
Spencer is all of
no,
the
like he like the babies represent like the person that like the Pope should like. So Lenny shouldn't have been the Pope, but like somehow he was still the chosen one, even though like there was all of these other not all of these other options, but there was one option that we later find out was probably the superior option.
Hey, that may well be it.
That's how I read it.
I'm Julian McKenzie, co-host of the Scrum Podcast, a sports show I'm doing with my podcasting partner in crime, Tristan D'Amour, on the Up.1 network. Every week, we analyze something different from the Canadian sports media landscape. Lack of diversity, getting a job in the field, coverage of different sports, and answering some of the harder questions. Through a combination of back-and-forth discussion and high-profile guest interviews, we're aiming to figure out exactly what's up in the world of sports. Find us wherever podcasts are sold. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, Message in a Bottle, Morse Code, Telegram, Singing Telegram, Target, Walgreens, Bird's Nest, Dad's Shed, and a crowded convention center bathroom.
All right, it is time for the Cherry Diet Coke Zero. What is the actual name of that?
I think it's just Cherry Coke Zero. I think,
Cherry Coke Zero?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the diet is redundant.
Okay.
It's fine.
Cherry Coke Zero,
It's already out there.
character of the episode. Verity, who did you like most and why?
I'm sticking with my highlight, and I'm gonna go with the cardinal that has asthma and
That's amazing.
also smokes cigarettes. Like, so he's like smoking his cigarette, and he like never ashes his cigarette. Also.
Yes.
And then he's like, Ksh.
Yeah.
I just thought he was cool, and he had I love the hats.
Oh yeah.
The like wide brim. Wide
Yeah.
brim hats or whatever, and he has like a black like mesh one or whatever, and he's like gonna die, and he's like, and they're talking about how young this Pope is, and he's like, and that means like we won't ever see another.
Yes.
They're all gonna die before there's another Pope.
Yes. That's a really
great choice.
That's really great. And like the thing that I really love about that character is that he tries to be the voice of reason, but he also often says things that are like totally outrageous and kind of ridiculous. So he's like a really bad voice of reason, which I think is really, really funny. There's a lot of characters like that in this show that are just, they're like you expect them to be one way, but then they just totally
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who is your Cherry Coke Zero character of the episode? God, it's gonna take a while for me to actually remember that.
That's like, I don't want to go with the obvious choice, Voyello, because he's like obviously the best character. I think he's like the most not other than Lenny. I feel like he was like very central, and he ends up being sort of like he's like the antagonist, but actually you want him to be the protagonist. Like you're like, oh man, why does this guy keep on like foiling Lenny's plans? But then you're like, no, he should foil Lenny's plans because Lenny's plans are fucking terrible. So I'm actually gonna go. I'm actually gonna go with Sister Mary on this one.
Okay, interesting.
I'm actually gonna go with Sister Mary on this one. For the simple reason, there's one thing in the show that she does that I didn't notice the first 2 times that I watched it, but now I did. And that's when so you remember when he's like talking to Voyello after they had both gotten up, and he's like, so you have to find your own guardian angel, or everyone needs a guardian angel. And he's like, I'm 60, like I don't need one. He's like, well, everybody needs one, and I'm telling you that Sister Mary is going to be your guardian angel. And he's like, oh, but whatever. Then Sister Mary kind of comes out in a very like authoritative way, and and she's like, he's the Pope, or she says something like that.
And
I love that.
Pope.
Yeah. I love that scene.
Ooh,
That's a great
that
scene.
to me established, because I was trying to figure out. Well, I feel like this probably happens a lot when you start a show. You're like trying to determine whether a character is good or bad.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, the whole point, like, characters shouldn't be either good or bad. They should be, like, human beings, like, both, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was just, like, trying to establish, like, okay, is she, like, is she gonna come out on top here, or is she the evil behind this guy? Because she basically raised him. And that to me established, I was like, oh, you actually can't fuck with her, and she might be slightly like Lenny,
I think one of the scenes where you see that is the flashback where Lenny first meets her, and she's like, and he's like, Ma, and then she's like, don't call me Ma.
That's literally their first interaction. That's their first interaction, exactly.
I was like, don't fuck with her, no.
Good point. And that's true that I have failed to mention that so there's kind of two Sister Marys, because you get a full interaction between young Lenny and younger Sister Mary,
and then you
get Diane Keaton, and then you get Jude Law, and you're like, holy shit, there's some...
The dynamics are different.
There's levels, yeah. And the dynamics are different. You have this orphan who's showing up, and then you have this nun who's going to raise him, and then she shows up in a helicopter, and she's still a nun, but now he's the Pope. That's crazy. Imagine being the Pope.
Exactly. So, for a very similar reason, for one scene and one scene only, my character of the episode is Valente. I guess the assistant of the Pope that goes and sees Vorero and comes in, and he's like, so how did you think of him? And he goes, he doesn't eat much.
Yes, that was so
which
good.
is the most Italian way to explain how a Pope is.
Yeah, and then Voyelo's he's like, oh, that's not a good sign. That's a really bad sign.
That was probably my second highlight of the show.
Yeah. And that another thing I love about that scene, I know that it's not Valente who does it, but when the Pope tells the guy to laugh less because it looks fake. That was funny.
Yes.
That was funny. But yes, Valente's a really, really good character.
He tries too hard and then doesn't try hard enough.
Yes.
I was going to pick this guy as my character of the show, but I feel like the other guy with that one, because he only speaks once.
Yeah.
And he speaks in Italian, and he just kills it.
Yeah, that's
with that one line, and I feel like that was a worthy performance.
That was an excellent performance. Yeah. So now can we talk about this whole thing about this probably being a comedy show?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Verity, you have the floor.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Soapbox.
No, I almost wanted you guys to talk first because I don't know if you guys were mind fucking me.
No.
We tried to give you as least info as possible about the show before you watched it.
Swear to God, until you said when you first said, so this is a satire, I was like, psh. No, it's not. This is a serious show.
And then we kind of started watching the show,
and they were
completely differently.
My God, this show is actually hysterical.
Well, the show is funny. There are funny parts in it.
Yeah, there
just
are.
Because just Lenny being such a dick in a lot of scenes across the show. It's funny.
Yeah.
Because he really sticks it to different people when they completely deserve it, and that's funny. And there are different places across the even in this episode where he starts smoking and he's like, so who outlawed that?
Yeah.
The Pope. Well, I'm the Pope now, so fuck off. Of course.
Yeah.
So throughout the show he sticks it to people who deserve it.
Yeah.
So he's kind of good at he's not.
But
does he
stick it to people that deserves it, or does he stick it to everybody regardless of whether they deserve it or not? And it's who and it makes you question,
that is also very fair.
And it makes you question who deserves Voyello. I'm sure that if I were Voyello's cool, that guy is cool, and why are you sticking it to him? Well, because he's an asshole who
because he's a control freak.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
who has a very specific vision of the Catholic Church that is kind of crazy and maybe a little bit archaic. Yeah, but is that funny? Maybe. So explain.
But Verity, so how did you view this?
Well, I just think the whole thing to me. So I was reading about it on I was just reading on Wikipedia on the train on my way here in the metro, and just the whole thing is just come on, he's an American Pope, and it's Jude Law, and it's he's got his sister Mary, and it's an Italian show, it's created by, shot by Italians, but they're but it's like in English kind of, and like also in
Yeah.
Italian, but it's like an American show as well because it's HBO and
It's
like,
HBO,
Canal Plus.
Sky Italia, and
okay.
Canal Plus.
Yeah, so it's
Which is Italian,
American.
Franco-American.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Does that
Does
add to the
that add-
satire? Does that add to the satire of it?
I just think that
Why
I
France?
don't know.
Why
I
France?
don't know. Like they were. I like what I think what I'm trying to get is like what the purpose of the show is. Like, are they
Is it commentary?
like is it like what is it a commentary on, and like why does it unite like Americans, Italians, and French people? Like why? Is
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like the unanswered question, and it's been 2 years
Yeah.
that this show's been going on.
It's the unanswerable question.
Or not going on, but this show aired 2 years ago.
Its original run ended 2 years ago, yeah.
With like the possibility of a season 2 coming
Yeah.
soon.
I thought didn't they say that it was like in the works?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then-
yeah. I think it's officially in the works. Like they're gonna start shooting it towards the end of 2018.
Oh wow.
So like we're not gonna get this for another like probably another 2 years.
Which means that we still have a bunch of time for a season 2.
Yes.
Potentially.
Yes.
Potentially.
But no, I so it being a satire, like did you feel that? So you thought this before seeing it. Did you feel that came through in the actual episode?
Well, it didn't say anywhere that I didn't actually look up the genre or anything because I just thought like, oh, like it has to be like it just has to be kind of ridiculous, and it seems like it's like an Italian kind of like Wes Anderson-y type thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like not like Wes Anderson, it's like not a comedy, but it is. It's just like everyone's just kind of ridiculous, and it's also
Yeah, like the spaghetti
maybe-
westerns there. Like no, that's not a spaghetti western.
Oh, I don't know actually.
Okay.
See, I don't know what
No.
the names of any of these things are, but it just like feels like it's just like also a commentary on how just ridiculous people in general are and like people in power. I don't know.
Well, yeah,
Maybe that's like the 4th segment of the show. Like at the end, we
Yeah.
just ask people if do you think it's a satire.
Well, and
That's a good idea.
And you know that's actually interesting because you remember when Voyello asks like he asks a question like why don't people or why do normal people not understand power? Like he asks like a question like that. I can't
Power is knowledge. Or
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't really get that part.
Yeah, I didn't get that part, but maybe now I do because it's like it's a commentary on how ridiculous power is.
Maybe.
But these people like clearly don't know anything, but they think they're like omniscient.
And like on the Catholic Church in general, which is just like, or like institutions that like have control over people's decisions, which is what Sister Mary said at one point. She's like, people are gonna make, like you are gonna guide, like people are gonna make decisions based on like how you run this church, like in their everyday lives.
Yeah.
Which is power, but also like how the music is placed was really an indicator to me that it was like a joke, just like how the little upbeat music and like kind of dramatic moments or whatever, and Jude Law's smirking all the time.
Yeah, it's true. That's that.
By the way, the soundtrack to that show, like the whole thing, not just this specific episode, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's a really good soundtrack.
To it.
Yeah,
I recommend it to everybody.
I also want to mention that like the thing that sort of gave it away to me about it being a satire was when you said like the music, because you're like there was a scene that like wasn't necessarily funny, but you're like listen to the music, and I was like oh shit, that music was weird.
Verity, you opened our eyes on a very specific detail of the young pope.
So how does it make you see it differently?
Well, I thought because there's a lot of moments in this show, well, even in this episode where like things are very intense. One of those like scenes at the end of the show are very intense as well, and then like I guess I didn't completely see how they kind of cut through that intensity with like dumb shit like I don't believe in God, and then he just like there's like a moment and he's like I'm joking obviously, and you're like oh yeah true,
like, the Pope should probably believe in God
he kind of should.
Theory.
But it also shows you how cynical he is, because
Oh,
he
absolutely.
probably actually does not believe in God.
Well, I guess you gotta watch the
I
rest.
guess you gotta watch the rest
you gotta watch the rest of the show. I guess you gotta watch the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think on. Do you have any closing statements on this before we end the show?
Oh my God. I like the Coke Zero.
The cherry Coke.
Yeah,
I like
Cherry
the
Coke.
underlying Coke Zero thing. I think that's also an indicator that it's ridiculous and
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. But I also feel like, okay, the other thing is this guy like Donald Trumpy or
Oh
like?
shit! Oh shit! I mean this.
I mean, this came on before the whole Trump.
No, I
thing.
think the last episode was approximately the election,
Whoa. Okay.
and now you see all like the Trump versus the actual Pope situations where like the Pope is like trying to dunk on Trump essentially. He's like,
Well, didn't he say during the election, Francis,
Yeah.
that Trump was a bad Christian or something?
something like that. Yeah.
I think he said something
And
like that.
and didn't Trump like tweet about?
About that
About-
specific thing.
I think
right?
he
I'm
did,
pretty
I think
sure.
he did, yeah.
I mean, he
Well-
tweets about everything.
Yeah.
really.
I think it's also easy to insert Trump into everything into
Oh,
all
true,
of pop
true,
culture
true,
these
true,
days,
true.
but also honorable mention to the current Pope, who is like pretty progressive, I guess.
Yeah, all things considered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Pope Francis.
Shout
out to Pope Francis.
The
No, Francis the First. That's
First?
why we just call him Francis.
Oh shit! Okay, all right. I thought there were several Francises.
Because, Benedict XVI, which was the Pope before him, we said the 16th. And when it's the first, you only say his name.
So hold on.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because I remember that. So do you remember that whole thing, approximately 2005, where JP something died?
John Paul
John Paul
II?
II?
Yeah, JP2, and then there was another.
JP2.
Yeah, that's how people called it. Yeah.
that's blasphemous.
Yeah, JP2, and then there was another one who like resigned.
Yeah,
Who's
Benedict
like,
XVI.
Benedict,
Yeah,
he was like,
he was-
nah.
and he was
that
like-
was crazy.
he was
that
Guatemalan?
Was actually crazy.
Yeah, he is now Pope Emeritus. Benedict XVI.
Okay.
Which is like rare because usually they die.
Yeah, that's it. There's only been one like hundreds of years
Wow.
ago. Yeah.
That it's pretty crazy that happened while we were alive.
Yeah.
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 Also, the Pius the 13th.
Yeah.
Like that's also a pretty ironic name. Like,
Yeah.
Pius isn't Pius someone who's pious is like someone who's like good and like
Insanely religious, like.
oh okay.
Yeah, like piety, where you're just like, your entire you devote everything to like your religious
okay.
side,
Okay.
and then he's like, I don't believe in God. Also 13, it's like
Oh, shit.
symbolism.
Wow.
Bad luck. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh
We are
shit.
I
just-
feel like it's a good place to end, like
Yeah.
that, like lingering.
Wait, I have one more question.
Oh, yeah, you have
okay.
yeah.
Are you gonna watch the show?
I don't know. I feel like now I'm curious about what comes next. I am curious about what comes next.
There are some
Am I-
really good
am I-
scenes.
I will say.
am I-
No, yeah, and I will say if you don't want to watch the show but you want to know what happens, Danger Guerrero's recaps on Up Rocks are still on the internet if you want to read those.
Okay, or I'll listen to the podcast because
Yeah.
I feel like it's the better version of the show.
Yeah,
Thanks for
exactly.
the plug.
Yeah.
Checks in the mail, very. Well, so thank you so much, Grady, for coming on.
This was a pleasure. I'm so glad I did it.
Harrison, always a pleasure for the
Always a
next
pleasure.
9 episodes because
Nine
there's only going to be 10. It's like a limited edition.
Yeah, limited edition.
Mini series podcast.
Yeah.
So you can find the show on our Medium page. You can also, I want to thank the Upford Network
Yep.
for housing us.
Shout out to Aiden Locke, the links, the Link newspaper, the Link publications, no, the Link newspaper,
Link.
the Link's current graphics editor.
Who made our graphic.
Who made our graphic, and we just kind of asked him, and he was like, sure. So shout out to Aiden Locke.
And yeah, on that note, we'll hear you on next time. Question mark?
The young Pope?
All right.
Be a coach.